What if it was all a lie? What if we were being told a lie? What if the story went like this? That morning, as Chris drove to work, his mind kept wandering back to that night, Saturday night after that ceremony, how he left the bar and got beat the hell up, attacked. Someone was trying to kill him for sure.
Help!
He just knew something wasn't right. I'm just gonna mind my P's and Q's, he said, and I'm not gonna get in any trouble. They're not gonna get me. They're trying to, but they're not. Shortly after Chris arrived at work that morning, he got the call that he had been expecting from his boss. It was to confirm that he would be going on assignment and reporting on the conditions of local hotels. Chris was informed that he was to go to Glendale at noon and check into the Days Inn hotel. And at 12:30, he was informed that there would be an environmental specialist that would arrive and bring all the equipment that they would need.
Good to have you along in for Chris Shelby. You got your answer. You asked who is watching at 4:30 in the morning. Rio Lewis is watching. He says, I'm awake. I watch you guys before I commute to work since I begin work at 5:30 in the morning.
I love it.
And he's real Lewis.
Chris had to get to Glendale by noon, so he didn't bother changing his suit. And he hopped in his car and headed on out. As Chris drove to Glendale that day, he thought about the December 22nd, how strange it was at work, and how weird Lauren Lister was acting. How Lauren Lister kept touching him and almost trying to get him to touch her. He kept his hands in his pocket just because he didn't want to fall into a trap, getting accused of sexual harassment or something. They were really trying hard. He gets to the Days Inn hotel, checks into his room 608, goes to the room, and since it was an early check-in, the maids had not been there yet. Turns on the TV, goes into the bathroom, and he hears some noises. Thinks it's just the environmental inspector. He gets bombarded, ambushed.
Hey! Hey! You gotta... Hey!
The men who were hired to murder Chris Burrous entered the room, overpowered him, stripped him of his clothes, put a mask on his face, repeatedly punched him in his anus until he hemorrhaged. When he gasped for air, he had already vomited, and he inhaled his vomit. That's why the coroner's report states that there is fluid in his lungs. One of his lungs was heavier than the other. As they were punching him in his rectum, they placed methamphetamine deep into his bowel. He had hemorrhaged, and there was blood. He died from this, and because the coroner was told that it was an overdose, and it was a homosexual grinder date, he led it to believe that it was just methamphetamine toxicity, when it was clearly not the cause of death. The men that murdered Chris Burrous were fully aware of the Good Samaritan laws, which states that a person who calls to report an overdose will not be prosecuted as long as they cooperate with the police. These men came into the room, murdered Chris Burrous, spread paraphernalia around the room, brought several different items, sex toys, to create an illusion that there was an overdose. One stayed behind to call 911 and deal with the police. The others took Chris's phone and left the scene. It was intentional, and it was meant to assassinate his character and claim that it was a grinder date to, once again, assassinate his character. And everyone is still, to this day, assassinating his character. There's two sides to every story, and I believe that this is Chris's side. If everything that we hear or read or watch in the news is controlled by one source, how can we be sure that what we're reading or watching is real or true? This is a case where the news was controlled by a source who had interest in the death of Chris Burrous, and they were able to control everything that we saw or read about it. Can you still believe the media? Is it possible that what we're reading and watching is a lie?